I'm Major Daniel Gade, and I was born and raised in North Dakota and have been in the Army since I was 17 actually, and I currently am a teacher at West Point. My family has a history of service, and my mom is a huge patriot, and so she raised us, all of us, to believe that it was part of our obligation as Americans that we have all this freedom and it has to be earned by somebody, and if not us, then whom? And so when I was 17, I enlisted in the Army and spent a year in the Army Reserve, and then went to West Point when I was 18, and have been on active duty since then. But I had a great uncle killed in the Philippines during World War II. I had an uncle who served in the Army for 25 or so years. My older brother went to West Point, so a big time family history of service in the Army. I was a company commander of a tank company, and we deployed from Korea to Iraq in summer of 2004. And we were stationed west of Baghdad in a place called Ramadi, which at the time was kind of a pretty serious hotspot. Probably half or so of the casualties in the entire theater were coming from that one city. And so it was a very, very rough place. It was gratifying later to see that when the surge started and the Anbar awakening and all that happened, it happened right where we had been fighting. It started where we'd been fighting, so it was really gratifying to see everything turn around in a place that I knew only for bloodshed, and it turned out to be the heart of maybe a new Iraq, which was really pretty nice for me. But I didn't get to see any of that when I was deployed. We were just fighting and fighting and fighting. About 3 months into my deployment, I was wounded the first time by a rocket-propelled grenade, and then 2 months later, I was wounded by an IED that destroyed my Humvee and very, very seriously wounded me. It mangled my right thigh and my whole abdomen and a bunch of other injuries, a broken neck and stuff like that. It was pretty horrible. I was conscious in the ditch for a little while, and then was when the helicopter came, I thought I was saved, and I passed out and was basically unconscious for about 3 weeks. I was in the hospital at Walter Reed as an inpatient for about 5 months, 40 or so surgeries, multiple hundred units of blood because it was just lots of leaky wounds here and there. And then was an outpatient for about 6 months. And then, so my total from the time I was wounded to the time I was discharged from the hospital was about 11 months. Which at the time, I'm proud to say, was sort of a record for somebody with my level of injury getting out and moving on with their life, because I wasn't gonna sit around the hospital for 3 months or 3 years waiting for somebody else to make me better. I was gonna go make myself better. And so I did. I was in a power wheelchair for a long time, for a couple of months actually, and was just very weak and had a broken pelvis and all this stuff that made it very difficult for me to sit on hard surfaces, and it just hurt a lot. And I had a two and a half, almost 3-year-old daughter at the time, and she was playing on the floor with some Legos in front of me, in front of my wheelchair, and she said, "Daddy, will you play Legos with me?" And I said, "Baby, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm sitting here, I can't play Legos with you." And she turned around and she's looking down at her Legos, and she said under her breath, she said, "My daddy can't do anything." And whew, right? So I turned off the wheelchair so it wouldn't go anywhere, and I crawled out of that sorry thing and I sat on the floor on my broken pelvis and played Legos. And that was an example of the kind of motivation I had to get better, because I wasn't going to be a sorry, pathetic, disabled dad who can't do anything, or a disabled husband who can't do anything. I was just going to go back to being a good dad and a good husband. And so I was very motivated by that incident. It was kind of a turning point. It was an early turning point, but a turning point in my rehabilitation. I said, I just wanted to get better and wanted to go on with my life, and so the second turning point was really, do I stay in the Army and continue to serve despite, having to, limp around as a very high-level amputee. I can't run, I can't jump. There's some things I can't do, so I can't go back to the shooting part of the Army. But could I still serve? And I didn't know whether I wanted to or not. And then my former division commander came, and this 2-star general, and came, and he had a very interesting discussion with me, and he said, "Look, dude, honestly, decide if you're going to make an impact or not, and whether it's going to be inside the Army or not, and then go with it. Whatever you want to do, go with it." And I decided then and there basically that I wanted to stay in the Army, and that I felt like I still had something to contribute. And so now all these years later, I'm in the classroom with cadets, future officers who are going to be leading these wonderful soldiers that we still have in the fight. And I feel like I can have I can have a direct impact on people who are going to be leading others in combat and helping them to succeed. I do some preparation with them of what it's really like as a young leader in a combat zone, because I think there are going to be various kinds of combat situations that you guys are in for a long time, no matter what happens with the current wars we're in. And then and then in the classroom I bring it in as much as I can. I bring some of this stuff into the classroom. I'm teaching American politics, so it fits nicely oftentimes about why we serve the Constitution, what it means that we submit ourselves to civilian authority and why that's important and all that stuff. And I just love doing it, so it's a real thrill. I'm basically a sponsored athlete through Operation Rebound, which is a Challenge Athletes Foundation program, and have been a road cyclist and a triathlete for them. And I was called in January or February of this year, and Nico, the head of it, said, "Hey, do you want to go ride bikes with the president?" I said, "Absolutely," because I had worked at the White House and had seen this event going on last year, and I thought, man, why didn't I get invited? I want to go. And then so this year I got invited, and that's really super. It's going to be a hoot.